we have two hemispheres of our brain. We have the left hemisphere, which is very logic and linearly oriented. And that's the side that you're talking about with all the chatter, all the noise, all the distraction, perfectionism, like constantly narrating. Are you sure you want to do that? Do you think that's a good idea? That's the left hemisphere. The right hemisphere is our intuitive, creative, inclusive, playful, musical side of our brain. Is there a correlation between our diets and like channeling, for example, our ability to connect with spirit? Because that's really the definition of channeling for me. I believe there is. I absolutely believe there is because everything that we consume, whether it's the political scene or news or, being in choosing certain friendships and conversations that we participate in, food, liquids, air, everything has an effect on us.
I want to welcome everybody back to another episode of The Soul Inspired. Today we have Stephanie Banks with us. She is an intuitive channeler, mentor, possibly a healer. I'm not sure. We'll talk about all that, but definitely in the spiritual realm of things. So thank you so much, Stephanie, for joining the show today. I really appreciate it.
Oh, it's amazing to be here with you, Joe. Thanks for having me.
It's always interesting when I first get someone on because we get about, a minute or 5 minutes just to connect, just to feel the energy and then kind of move into it. I find as the talk goes, it gets better and better and better. So I can already feel that with you. I start everybody in the same sense, and I don't know your entire history, of course. I know a little bit about you, but I look at I like to go pretty far back. I like to start off with your childhood.
Mhm.
So I like to look at who you are now and if there are correlations between who you are now and who you are as a child. Maybe a little bit of information around your belief systems too, if possible.
Yeah, happy to. As a child, I was always very sensitive and very connected to the natural world. I loved animals. I loved trees. I used to talk to trees. I felt like they talked back to me. I thought everybody had this experience. But I grew up with a mother who struggled with mental illness. And as a result of her struggles, I had to create spaces of my own safety because I never knew when she was going to be in a mood that felt safe to me or if her behaviors were going to create safety. So my sister and I sort of came up with our own coping mechanisms and our own way of connecting and communicating with each other to create that safety. And what I realize now, as I have applied these sensitivities to my intuitive channeling work, is that I really give credit to my mom for setting the scene, the scenario, for me to be able to develop these gifts and skills because sensitivity and connection to unseen realms and belief in one's own intuition and inner landscape is exactly what I do now, what I teach other people to do and to trust within themselves now. And if not for that hardship of growing up and in a setting of unpredictability with a parent, I don't know that I'd be this far along in my intuitive practice and in the skills that I currently have.
So you're saying the things that you started doing as a child are kind of carried through into what you do now in your adulthood and oh, okay. Oh, that's
Yeah, so
interesting. I didn't know that. Okay, so that's really interesting. So
well,
and
I think,
mhm.
yeah, I think it helped me to deepen my connection to animals in the natural world. I was listening for places of peace. That's what I was seeking. And whereas I was not understanding all the time what was going on for my mom in her internal world, I could establish safety and peaceful places and depth of connection that I was really craving in animal beings or plant beings, and some humans certainly in my life as well. But yeah, that has carried through to now, where I came back to this place of that type of and that nature of meaningful connection. And I'm able to, this is why I'm able to channel. I'm able to channel souls that are here on the planet right now. They don't have to be in a human body. They can be animal beings, they can be plant beings, they can be Earth herself. I channel Gaia, Mother Earth all the time.
Mm.
And I feel that this was my coping mechanism. The natural world was the place where I felt most at home and most safe and most seen.
Did you have a connection to any type of religions? Were you connected to that? Were you, some people are like forced into religion as ch children, right? So they have to go to church or whatever it is. Did any of that come up in your life, or were you just naturally all of a sudden going this more spiritual kind of just on your own, just you and your sister?
Yeah. Well, I grew up with a Jewish background, but I would not call my family highly religious. In fact, my father was the first to peel out of the parking lot anytime we went to services
Yeah.
because he was not a fan. And that was fine with me. So this is really separate from religion. I don't consider myself a religious person, but of course I am highly, highly spiritual. And there are some components that I find in all religions that are really helpful for helping us to connect. And there are some components that are just the opposite,
Hmm.
depending on what the rhetoric is and the teachings are, right? It can be very divisive and separating, or it can be very inclusive and expanding.
One of the things right away that I've never had anybody say this on the show yet, and I always connect with all my guests in different ways, and like something will be said, and I'll go, oh yeah, you said when you connected with trees. So I had this, a lot of people on the show may or may not know this, but it does it has kind of has something to do with this, but I'm plant-based. So I eat plants. I'm completely plant-based. I don't like to use the word vegan because it gets all these negative, there's just so much going around with that. So I just say plant-based. So I consume plants for the last 15 years or so, or however many years it's been. It might be 12. I'd have to think. All I've eaten were plants. And when I first went that route, I had gone really strict. I'd gone really strict. I mean, like just salads all day. It was very, very strict because I didn't know what I was doing. I didn't know there's all kinds of things, and you can still eat your, potatoes and beans and like all these things. I just ate very, very clean. And what happened was I went from eating a really poor diet to eating super clean, and I had kind of like this euphoric thing that started happening. I don't understand it. I just felt very like light would be the description. And I remember I went for a walk. There's a reason for the story. I went for a walk and I started feeling really connected to like the squirrels, and I was like walking through this forest, and I remember feeling like more connected than normal and thinking, what is this feeling? Why am I feeling this? And I'm like, oh, it must be because I'm plant-based now. Do I feel like special that I'm not eating animals? I didn't really know what the feeling was, but I don't know, it started to kind of happen. And then I remember going near some trees and feeling connected and getting emotional. I was feeling very
Mhm.
emotional around these trees. And I was like, why am I getting so emotional? And it was the first time that I ever really felt some kind of connection to our earth or something. And I remember coming home that day and being like, wow, okay, I got to stay this way. And now here we are all these years later, and I'm still doing that, but I don't generally get out and talk to the trees. But I did have this immediate connection right away. And I don't know if it was in my head, but you said that, and I was right away. It was my head went there because of who I am now. And I'm not telling everybody you have to go plant-based to talk to trees or anything, but I'm just saying that was kind of like my what happened to me during that time. So I thought I'd just mention that. I just found that fascinating because no one's ever mentioned that in my show yet. So
Oh my gosh, I love everything that you said about that. And if you won't say it, I will encourage everybody to go plant-based and talk to trees. Try it. Just give it a try. Give it a roll.
right.
People have asked me before, is there a correlation between our diets and like channeling, for example, our ability to connect with spirit? Because that's really the definition of channeling for me. And I believe there is. I absolutely believe there is because everything that we consume, whether it's the political scene or news or, being choosing certain friendships and conversations that we participate in, food, liquids, air, everything has an effect on us. There's no way to argue opposite. It just does. So the food choices that we make those that are in more compassionate, I'll say, are going to have an impact on how we feel. Of course, you're going to feel more connected to all life in all its forms as you are shifting your diet and your orientation to a more compassionate approach to what you eat. And it matters. It all really does matter. So I love that. I really do. Thank you for sharing it.
No problem. I just thought I'd share it because, and I thought, hey, you're putting yourself out there. I put myself out there. It's like these are things, there's a lot of things that happen in our lives. I noticed this just talking through friends that have happened in their lives, but they feel silly saying it, so they won't say it. And I'll say one thing about the Soul Inspired, the show, I'm completely just everything's just out there now. Like I'm just, it's too late for me. Like everything, anything that I kind of kept inside that I was like, oh, if I say that, I'll sound crazy. It's done now. So I continue to have different things that pop up, and that one came up as soon as you said it. I was like, I remember that feeling. I still get that feeling sometimes for sure, but I think it was just in that moment I was really connecting to my new lifestyle or the new way I was kind of going about it, and I really just connected in a different way. So this is really fascinating. I wanted to just flip over because obviously you took on this mechanism through your life and you started channeling and you feel more, as you mentioned, it's more of like a spiritual type side of things. When you are channeling, are you receiving messages through like words, feelings, visions? Like what, how does it come through you? I'm just wondering if you can kind of describe how it kind of comes through you.
Yeah, all of what you said. I close my eyes when I channel, and that way I am able to see imagery. And along with the imagery that's coming through are like streams of words, paragraphs. Sometimes I'm talking for 10, 15 minutes without stopping around the message that that soul or that energy or that spirit guide is bringing through. And so there's also a component that I would call hearing, but it's of course not sound waves hearing. It's an inner hearing that's hard to describe, but I think we know when we're feeling it. So there's that aspect to it as well. Really, it's a multimodal approach that my team, my spirit team uses
Mm.
to convey information to me. And that way I'm able to really make it functional for the person, the client that I'm channeling for. Because just for me to see it or understand it isn't actually the point, but I can share that with them and then the words go along with it. And then sometimes I hear music or certain titles of songs will come through. Sometimes I'll burst out in song. Sorry to those clients who have to endure that. It doesn't happen often, thank goodness. But yeah, it's really it's every possible modality that could be used as communication is the way that I channel.
Do you have you ever had messages just right away? It came to me. Have you ever had messages that surprised even you? Meaning, see, I would think that when you start channeling, like I haven't done it myself. Don't know if I'd ever go down that road. I don't know. Like I talked to you before we started doing this that I'm a writer, and it's all the same. It's that same place. But I would think that sometimes when you have messages come through, maybe especially for those who are just starting out, it almost felt like you almost feel like an outlier. Like, is there moments where you almost feel like, I'm going to say this and I don't know if it's going to connect with the person, and you almost need that confirmation at times to be like, okay, I'm in the right path.
Yeah, that's something definitely to struggle with. So or that I've struggled with because we're not yet living in a mainstream society where we can say, well, this is what my intuition says, and people won't kind of raise an eyebrow. Or this is what my soul is saying. Can you imagine? Or my higher self knows this to be so. But I'm working towards that being mainstream conversation by having
Mm.
it naturally in my everyday life. And I'm surprised and delighted by messages I channel all the time. Every single session, I have new understanding, a new appreciation for what is in the beyond, what we actually are all about, what we have access to. And it's not uncommon for me to pause mid-message and say, Wow, that is so fascinating. And then go back to the message
Hmm.
because it is. There's so much that we do not understand. There's so much that we cannot know in the true knowing sense. But when we tune in regularly, which by the way you are, Joe, you said I don't know if I'll ever channel, but by the way, I write music and I'm a musician. Yeah, so you're channeling. Oh,
Right.
it's just another form of it. My channeling, because of my speech pathology background, comes through language and words. I love language and words.
Mm.
Yours comes through musically, also with words. You probably love language and words. So we all have our different way of doing it. And the work is, I believe, 98% self-trust. Just
Hmm.
trusting enough what's coming through to either keep it for yourself and acknowledge and accept that, or to take a risk and share it with another if it's going to serve them in the highest way. And that's the question to ask, because sometimes we can create chaos. If we share something and that person is not ready or not wanting to hear it, that's not our business to do, I don't believe. But if it's
Mm.
pure love, and most of us do know the difference, then yeah, usually sharing that really can uplift and even offer healing.
Where I can definitely connect with that is so I'm a songwriter coach as well, right? So I have people who come to me and they want to learn how to write better songs, how to write the way that I do, if it's just from a feeling perspective. Okay. So play some chords, play piano, play guitar, just start singing. The whole idea is the word that I always use is trust. So when I'm
Mm,
talking to my students, they'll start writing, they'll play their chords and they have it in them. They're like, well, I don't know what to say. And I'm like, just trust whatever you're going to say will start to make sense over time. It might, in the beginning, it might sound like a bunch of words that don't make much sense, but just you have to trust it. And I'm finding that I think just like intuition, a lot of people don't know how to trust their intuition. They don't know how to like actually trust that. And it's something that I'm still, even in my own coaching practice, even whether it's life coaching or whether it's music coaching, trying to help people develop. And
mhm,
I'm wondering if you have any insight around that, how you could help people start trusting their intuition better? Because I'm sure you went through that when you started
mhm.
channeling, I would assume, maybe even as a child. So I'm just wanting to kind of dig into that a little bit and see if you have any
Yeah.
insight on this.
Oh, for sure. And this is the largest piece of the foundation that I teach because I don't believe we can be clear channels if we're not trusting ourselves. And our society does such a great job of disconnecting us from ourselves, from our inner truth, from our trust, right?
Mm.
In fact, most of the students that I teach have this question like, how do I know that I'm channeling instead of just making this up?
Right.
And what I tell them is, oh, heck, we're making this all up all the time, every day, moment to moment. It's all made up. Everything is made up. All the objects you see behind me, they had to be imagined first
Mm.
before they could be created, before they could come into form. When and why did we learn that the imagination isn't real or can't be trusted or isn't a thing? When I'm channeling, it's coming through that space of imagination. That's why I'm able to see imagery and where words and language and music are able to come through. So there
Mm.
are workarounds with the way we talk to ourselves. This is what I think people can use to start to trust themselves more. If you're getting some insights or guidance about something, and you want to share it, a workaround to just saying, well, this is what's so, because who really actually knows what's so, but you can say to someone, I'm not sure. You kind of said it a while ago, Joe. I'm not exactly sure where this is coming from, but this is what I'm present to right now. Or this is what I'm feeling or sensing right now. And then you give that person permission to bring that in and take that on if it's something that resonates with them, or to leave it alone because you just told them you're not sure about it, but this is what you are picking up on. And that's a beautiful way to be in your truth
Mm.
and transparency and give another person equal space to be in theirs. So
Mm.
that's what I would say. It's kind of how we talk to ourselves and about ourselves. I feel like journaling is a really good path to our clarity as well. If you're just writing for yourself and you don't worry that anyone else is going to read it, then you're having truth and clarity come through in that way. And you can build your trust through that modality, through the writing modality. But really, it's a process of building courage And these times call for courageous hearts. So be in that.
That's amazing. And I was, as you were saying that, the biggest thing that, so it's a lot of inner work because you have to get to a place where, because I find, I guess I'm applying it to my own life with the students I work with, and a lot of times they get very self-judgmental,
Mhm.
and these types of things, and you almost have to be absent of that. You almost have to let go of the I don't want to say the facade. That's not very nice to say. The fake, not the, it's not yet, like you have to let go of that kind of like protective armor because we're always like holding that on to do things and look a certain way and to feel a certain way, and you have to almost completely let go. And I found as a child when I was going through some struggles in my life, around 11 years old was when I started writing music, and that was like my safe haven. It was like the place I could go. And for some reason, I took that armor off every time I would do it. And it felt so good. But then I'd come back to reality in life and it'd be on.
Yeah.
And I started to like the music version of myself better than the regular self. Okay. And so I just wanted to do music all the time. I'd fall asleep with my guitar in my lap. Well, I'm falling asleep in bed, It'd be like, that's the way, that's what started happening because I felt like, and I don't even know why I was okay with that. I think about that sometimes. I see my poor students like sweating and looking nervous, just even sing in front of me or things like this. And I'm like, why wasn't I like that at all? Like something about the music allowed me to turn that off. And maybe there was some kind of self-confidence there. I don't really know. But it is inner work. And I think that once you get to that place, then you can, start to trust more and let go. You I was wondering too, when you have these this is a actually this is a kind of a personal question because I just always want to know this. So if you're getting messages come through, if you, I don't know if you're working with spirit guides or energies, I'm not sure. Some people call them different things. But I'm wondering if you often get different personalities come through or if they're always the same.
Oh, always different because each soul that I'm channeling is different. And it's so fun to channel someone's, beloved or family member or friend or spouse. And then the client will say after the message, "Oh my gosh, that's exactly them. That's what they sound like. That's what they
Wow.
talk like. That's the energy. You can just feel the energy coming through." And I can literally feel the energy coming through. So it's fun. It's really joyful. And when I'm tuning into spirit guides, yeah, they all have a vibe, a different cadence. Some are real, very slow and deliberate, intentionally have me slow down my speech, my pattern of speech, enunciating each word. Other ones that are like all the way through for minutes and minutes. But yeah, each one has a different signature, I would say, energetic signature, and they're distinguishable. Sometimes I can recognize souls that I've channeled before by that familiar energy to me.
Wow.
Yeah.
And that's when you're working one-on-one with people or in a group or okay.
Either way, yeah,
Either
either
way.
way, because I work based on what's requested. I don't say like, oh, well, this one's here for you, so let me channel this. The client says, I'm struggling in work and I want to hear from my supervisor's soul because I have
Mm,
no idea how to get along with this person and what's the stumbling block here. When you go to soul, you get to peel away all the layers, like you were talking about before, the masks that we wear. You
mm.
get to go beyond all of that and see what's really underneath. And it's a beautiful, vulnerable, honest place from which to channel.
Have you ever had Have you ever been in either self meditation or some kind of within your own personal energetic space, or maybe you do this often? Excuse me for my ignorance if I don't know this. And you started re channeling or receiving messages, not necessarily in front of me, like you could be in front of me right now and receiving something for me, but just you're in your own personal space and receiving messages. You have had that happen?
Oh yeah. Yeah, for my own self, for my own use.
Yes.
Yeah, oh,
Yeah.
for sure. Yeah, mostly in the shower. That's where most people get a lot of their
Yeah.
downloads.
Mm-hmm.
Shower or driving, it's kind of like we're a captive audience. And yeah, I've had some really great insights in the carpool line picking up my kids from school.
Yeah.
I have had some, lots of visits all the time. I know how to turn it off and I know how to be open. So I'm not constantly barraged with, a bunch of whiny guides or,
Hmm.
or souls who are demanding, my attention. There's a process that I declare when I'm open to receive or when I'm seeking guidance and insight, and then something, a time when I just want to look at the cereals in the grocery store and not be disturbed. So, yeah.
Yeah, because it's interesting you say that because I've been coming to this kind of conclusion, and it's probably inaccurate, but I don't really care. I'm going to say it anyway. And it's this idea that we kind of have things backwards with our brain, right? So I'm really starting to understand from all the people I talk to for the near-death experiences, the out-of-body experiences, people who've had spiritual experiences, and some of them have past life memories. And I'm starting to feel really closely the idea that our mind or our memory comes from a different channel, not just our brain. Our brain might be some kind of organ that kind of carries things through or allows us to function with our hands and do things in this world. But I think our brain is actually what gets in our way. I think that's our signal to turn. It's kind of like if we didn't have a brain, I don't think, well, I mean, if we didn't have a brain, we wouldn't be functioning. But it's kind of like that thing that kind of stalls us from our intuitive feelings a lot because it gets in the way and the chatter gets in the way. And that's why when you said the shower, same thing with me. I've had some of my best insights in the shower. I've had some of my best songs started in the shower because your mind calms down, everything slows down, and now everything's just steady. And then all of a sudden you're receiving a different thing, right? So when the brain slows down,
Yeah.
I'm starting to come to that. I don't know if you feel that way, but that's what I'm feeling. I think that's a huge part of being human. Like, I mean, obviously it is with the brain, but like if we didn't have that, I think we'd be dealing with a different realm or something at that point.
Yeah, I think of it as we have two hemispheres of our brain. We have the left hemisphere, which is very logic and linearly oriented. And that's the side that you're talking about with all the chatter, all the noise, all the distraction, perfectionism, like constantly narrating. Are you sure you want to do that? Do you think that's a good idea? Is that, whatever. That's the left hemisphere. The right hemisphere is our intuitive, creative, inclusive, playful, musical side of our brain. And that is actually the side that, in my personal and professional opinion, is underdeveloped for most of us because we're
Mhm.
not in a society that places a high value on intuition, and creativity and inclusivity. So we have this very robust left hemisphere that's very logic oriented and can pull up data points. And then we have this underdeveloped right hemisphere that really wants us to be connected and in the spiritual connection and the creative, open, expanded state. So, together, when both halves are doing what is just their job and only to the extent that we need them to, we're balanced
Mhm.
and we'll be able to do and be all the aspects and facets of who we're meant to be in the fullest of human and soul experience. But that's how I look at it. It's really, there's lots of things we can do to enhance our right hemisphere function, and music and art and dance and creativity and writing. Those are all things that will address the right hemisphere, and then we can have more of a balance and we won't feel taken so off kilter by the constant mental chatter. We also have to meditate like that. We
Mhm.
can't go without saying the M word here. We have
Yeah.
to do that to get a little space between our thoughts, and that's what gives more access to the right hemisphere to be accessed as well.
Okay, because I was just we're basically vibing at the same energy wave here because I was thinking the whole time there about meditation. So yeah, I've always said music is my meditation. I do try to practice some meditation, even if it's 5 minutes, just to take a moment. I've been doing that more and more and more because it seems to be the theme that everybody tells me. And when you were talking about that, I haven't done enough research around meditation and the brain to know the answer to this, but I'd be curious to know, maybe you do, but I'd be curious to know if under meditation, when we go into a deep sense of meditation, does that, because, if we're talking about the left side of the brain being that side that gets
Mhm.
a little bit in the way, if there's a lot more activity that calms down from that end as opposed to the right side. I don't know enough about it, but do you know anything around that?
Oh, I would not want to misquote anything.
Right.
Um,
That's why I'm being
but
careful too.
yeah. But I
Yeah.
can tell you from personal experience when I meditate, and by the way, music is meditation.
Mhm.
People, I'm not talking about sitting cross-legged and oming. That's not how I meditate.
Mhm.
I'm outside in my garden for most of my meditations, or I am laying with my dogs. I am really close to the earth and feeling, the nurturing vibration of Mother Earth. I'm moving and walking meditations. I listen to Sanskrit mantras. That's another beautiful way that I love to meditate. And the musicality of that is very meditative and soothing. So there's thousands of ways to meditate. And yes, it will help to calm that egoic voice that's always activated, always overactivated and fear-based, really. It's designed to keep us safe, but it's overemployed.
Mhm.
So we give it too much time, too much space, and too much credit for what it does. We don't actually need it to work that hard. We create our own safety, our own reality. Right? We're making this up all the time. So what do you want to make up that's different? But I know for sure that meditation has a whole body effect and a brain effect. You can study heart rate and patterns of breathing and see that they come into coherence when one is meditating. They've done studies of monks meditating with trees, and they have linked the trees up to some sorts of sensors to study their xylem and phloem. Remember that from earth science,
Mm.
the movement of fluids up and down inside the trees. And when the monks meditate regularly with the trees, they actually come into the same pattern with the breath of the human and the flow of the tree. No
Wow.
lie. Yeah.
Wow, that's amazing. I always hear
Yeah.
little pieces of things like that, whether it's people, there was someone else that also did experiments, and whether some people believe this experiment or not, but it was, I think it's called the rice experiment, where
Mhm.
they had two bowls of rice or something, and you'd get up every day and send love to this one bowl of rice, and then you'd be mean and swear at the other one. And they did this, and the bad rice it would start turning dark and black over time, and the other rice would stay good for a longer period of time. And I found that really fascinating. So I started looking it up for a while, and all these people were doing it and proving it. But then there was all these articles that came out that said it's just fake, it's not real. And I'm like, there's always things out there that try to, you know, disassemble these ideas, but like they're
Right.
always time after time we come through it. And hearing that one, that's really fascinating that there's some kind of connection we're having to the earth, or
Yeah.
just, that's why everybody keeps telling me off this show as well. They're like, go hug a tree sometime. It'll really ground you. Or
Yeah.
these are types of things that people will be saying to me. Because when I first started the show, I'd be like vibrating after I'd be talking to all these spiritual people. And they said, go put your feet in the ground after you talk to
Mhm.
someone and hug a tree. And so I started doing that. I don't care
Yeah.
what my neighbors
It's
think, but yeah.
It's beautiful, right? I know I have really developed my courage now where if I am on a hike in a forest, I don't, okay, sometimes I still look around to see if anyone's coming, but I
Right.
just throw my arms around the trees and hug them, put my heart against them.
Mm.
It is so gorgeous, that experience, and they love it. Trees love to be hugged.
Mm.
So take it from someone who talks to them and receives communication from them. They love it.
Oh, now I'm thinking back to that time the tree was crying. I should have went and hugged it.
Oh,
Maybe it needed a hug. I don't know. But that I felt like this like emotional feeling towards this tree. But it could have been more like a happy emotion. I can't remember back, but it was definitely something. But the reason I had asked you about if you got messages for yourself was if you ever channel, you mentioned earlier on that what we consume is kind of
mhm,
what we can become, right? So you got to be careful whether it's the food you're ingesting, whether it's the news, anything going on, family, you know, whatever's going on. Do you ever receive messages about the earth, about events, anything like that, that you kind of keep to yourself, or do you share those messages? Always curious when people are really in touch with channeling, if they do that, because I would, if I'm just speaking for me, if I
mhm,
was channeling if I was getting something, which I do, which I do, but I don't come out and say this is what I see happening because then
Mhm.
I'm almost held accountable for that. Like if it doesn't
Right.
happen, then people are like, "Oh, he's a fraud" or whatever, even though that feeling kept coming through. And I'm wondering if you deal with that ever, if you ever pick up on anything that's constant. It's almost like to a point where you're like, "Hey, this is a message that needs to come out."
Mm. Well, so I make sure to steer clear of any predictive channeling. I
Mm,
always tell people I am not going to tell you what's coming, what's going to happen. That's not, I don't feel that's helpful. And here's the other thing. My channeling, most channeling is just for the read of that moment. And we have
mhm,
free will. So we change our trajectory on a dime. I can be in one place one moment and then make a different decision or have a different orientation the next moment, and everything lines up differently than it would. So for me to say, well, this relationship is not going to work out ultimately, or me to say, oh, something very troublesome and, difficult is coming your way, I'm creating chaos. I'm creating fear. And I truly don't know if that thing is going to happen. And it's really not my role to state it. So I don't do anything predictive like that. Sometimes I will be given information that shows me how, say, a relationship is continuing to unfold. And then I will ask my guides, is this for me to share, or is this just for me to know as I help this couple or this person to make the best decisions for themselves? And then the guidance will tell me this is just for you. This is just, for your understanding, so you can be a better support to them. And sometimes it'll say, um, yeah, validate this for them because this is going to help them on their journey. And in terms of the earth, I am getting messages from Gaia all the time because that's who I want to talk to. My soul is here in service to the planet. Humans are great, love the humans, but really my deepest role and desire is to be in service to this living, breathing planet and all life forms upon her. I
mm.
do not actually believe in some sort of a human hierarchy. I do not believe that humans are above any species. Quite the opposite. I think we're proving ourselves to not be
Right.
with our
I agree with
behaviors,
that.
right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So when I channel Pachamama, which is Mother Earth, I am really, really present to the suffering that she is experiencing.
Mhm.
And I feel that in my body. Like, rarely is there a time I channel the earth when I don't cry. And
Mm.
it's not just a blanket feeling of desperation, it's the truth of what is happening now. The human choices to destroy, and we've come so far out of balance. And there's great suffering that we're bringing to all life. And the earth loves all of her children, whether they are monkeys or trees or dogs or humans. We're all the same to her. There's great love and compassion from our mother with the capital M. So I'm here in service to those who are actually bringing about healing onto the planet. And there are many of us. So I don't want to leave anyone in a desperate place and just, leave with the feeling that we're doomed. No, we're not. Everything we do, from what's on our plate to what's in our minds to how we are supporting ourselves, our loved ones, emotionally, spiritually, that all matters and it's all received by the earth.
I love that. I also I believe in everything you're saying there, but I also was going to say that even I always say this, I look at how quickly channels like this channel are are blowing up, how quickly people like yourself are doing the work you're doing. People are writing books. More people are connecting with our spiritual self than ever before. And there's always going to be two sides to it, right? There's going to be, of course, a lot of people that don't have any, they don't
Mhm.
connect with it, and that's perfectly fine. But I see the reason I bring that up is because I do believe that we're moving in the right, I know it sounds crazy. I think we're moving in the right direction. We're making poor choices, but it's still leading us in that right direction. I like earlier you said we all have free will, and that's why you're careful with the predictive. It's when I was quite young, I went to a psychic, yeah,
Mhm.
because my grandmother had just passed and I wanted to connect with her, and She was spot on with everything. It was incredible. Still friends with her to this day. I know, we speak often, but uh, she was right on everything. The only thing was she had said, "I see three children with you." And when I had my third, I was like, "Okay, yeah, you got it again." And then here I am about to have my fourth. So I wrote to her and said, "Hey, what went wrong? You were right on everything else." Well, first of all, they're two different relationships.
Hmm.
Okay, so two children, my first. This is getting personal. I guess my soul inspired family will know this now. But two different relationships, and that that can alter and change your direction.
Hmm.
That's a big shift. So the idea is like, yes, we can sense where you're at in that moment,
Hmm.
but you're shifting and that can change things. And I truly do believe that because we do have free will here. We
Hmm.
can make different changes and everything, and that changes the whole storyline a little bit. And so the changes, and that goes for humans in general. We have to be careful because, I mean, the nice thing is we could be going down this way and then we can just all decide, okay, no, we're going to go this way instead.
Yeah.
And that's what we need to do. I mean, I know that seems simple, but it really is that simple. We need to change that. Going back to the
Yeah.
imagination, going back to what we see and vision and move towards that. I don't know if you agree to any of that, but I wanted to
I
bring it up
t-
because I've dealt
yeah,
with
I
that.
totally.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's why I said I don't want to leave anyone with, because hopelessness is just another, excuse for complacency. And none of us can be just complacent now. Like there's your help, your heart, your resources, your care, your love are needed in many places. And start, just be in your community, be in your family, plant a garden, nurture life, contribute to organizations that are doing great things in the world. Because yes, we can change this. We are still here. We are highly creative and imaginative. We have all of the resolutions to the climate chaos and climate change that we need. The answers are here. We just need the people power to get behind them and move them forward.
Mm.
And that sounds simple enough, but people don't like change. It takes us a very long time to to commit to change and get in the pattern of it. But yes, we can change everything, anything we want, anytime we want. It's a very beautiful thing to have been gifted this free will and be
Mhm.
able to choose. So check in and see what's resonant with you. Where is your heart guiding you? This is not a brain thing. This is a heart thing. The heart, I believe, is the most intelligent organ of the body, and it will always guide us in the right way.
I love that. I'm going to use that as the quote. Where's your heart guiding you? I think
Mhm.
that goes back to the what I was saying about my students when they're like, I don't know how to write this song. I've got these awesome chords. Everything sounds great, and I can't. And I'm like, but you're not feeling. So a lot of times they'll be doing this, they'll be looking at me. And I said, okay, close your eyes, just close your eyes. And then they close their eyes, and then we take a minute, and I just start playing, and then try to hear the melody. Like, just try to hear it. Well, I can't hear anything. Well, then you're thinking about hearing it. Don't think about hearing it. Just, you can make noise with your mouth, right? Just make noise. So it's the same idea. It's like you're channeling internally in yourself. Now you do it with words.
Mhm.
And so, I think we all have this in us. And I think in different ways, it comes out in different ways for everybody. Not everybody's supposed to do the exact same thing. And you being a word person, I was curious about this. Have you done any work with what you do, like any writing or anything like that? I'm always curious about that. And if so, how people get in touch with that.
Yes, I'm working on my second book right now, which is going to essentially teach people how to channel for themselves. I realize this may not be the best business model for me. But actually, I do this because I envision a world that the world that my heart knows is possible is one in which we are all trusting ourselves. We are all self-guided, not from fear, but by love and by care and by compassion. And that's what channeling gives me access to all the time. I only channel in the realm of fifth dimensional consciousness. That's unity consciousness. It's all love. It's all the highest loving vibration. So this book is going to teach others basically everything, all the strategies and techniques that I have used and learned over the years that have made me a more clear channel. I'm going to be illustrating those in the book so that people can do that for themselves. And then my first book, it was definitely channeled. It's basically for people who are navigating life with a loved one who has dementia, or Alzheimer's or any kind of progressive neurological disease.
Hmm.
Because my journey with my mother through her dementia really even more fine-tuned the ways in which I found to connect with her on a soul level rather than just through personality. Because as most of us know, because most people do know someone who has dementia, their personalities change oftentimes,
Hmm.
and it can be very disorienting to try to stay connected to and have a healthy relationship with someone who's changing like that all the time. But when you go to soul, that's not changing. Their soul is that aspect of themselves that stays steady. And I was able to learn through channeling what my mother's soul needed from me while she was alive, going through her dementia, so we could
Wow.
improve our relationship and have this beautiful connection. And now she's on the other side, and she sends me a cardinal to my window every day for the last 11 years. She's
No,
been gone, and that cardinal is still coming.
that's amazing. So she's
Yeah.
determined. She's very
She's determined. I've researched
Mhm.
what is the lifespan of a cardinal. Is it possible this is the
The
same
same
darn
cardinal.
cardinal?
Or maybe you'll soon be channeling the cardinal, and the cardinal won't show up. You're like, okay, cardinal's on the other side, you know.
Yeah, yeah,
But that's really interesting, and actually, that's fascinating. So I'm going to say a few things. So, second book, it kind of is going more in the spiritual aspect of things. It sounds like the
for
second book
sure.
that you're writing on. First
Mhm.
book was around, going through with a loved one through through dementia, and you were using channeling to stay connected with your mother through kind of end of life care type thing.
Actually, that book has almost no channeling mention in it. I don't
Oh,
even
okay.
think I brought up the word because at that time in my life, I was not as confident and competent as
Hmm.
a channel. And so I was not going and did not feel comfortable bringing that into a book. It's very pragmatic, very three-dimensional, very practical ways for you to choose connection with your loved one over being right or over anything that could be dislodging of your loving connection with them. It's just real practical, and I would think it kind of comes from almost a clinical perspective as well as with my background as a speech pathologist. So it's just an easy read, and it can change your relationship, but it doesn't have to do with spirit or soul. I did not put that in the book.
Okay. But it's still okay. So people who are dealing with that though can still get
Mhm.
some support through reading the book,
Absolutely.
but it's different than the other stuff you're doing. The reason I was kind of connecting it all is I recently started listening to this podcast called the Telepathy Tapes. And oh, so you know what I'm talking about.
Yes.
And I was absolutely fascinated by it, seeing that people can communicate with their, loved ones that have, different disabilities, they were born with different things. And I'm sitting there thinking I remember one day I was listening to one of the episodes and I thought, if we could master this idea, if people would actually really understand what's going on here, we could be also working with people who are at end of life, who are
Hmm.
struggling with different things and communicate the way we communicate. We're just not, because I truly do wonder at times if even people who are going through severe disability at the end of life, if their brain is obviously having an issue,
Hmm.
right? That organ is now struggling and their communication is offline, like it's going offline. So it's
Hmm.
hard for them to actually communicate and to do things. But it makes me wonder, is that other side of who we are still intact? And it is from what,
Yeah.
and if we could communicate that way, and that sounds very futuristic or very, but like I
Mhm.
think we're getting there. I think at some point there may be this idea that if we can really all connect with our gifts and our abilities, even if someone's body is starting to go down, it's like we're still connecting with their soul, right? And as they're
Yeah.
leaving, we have a much easier way letting go of our
Yeah.
loved ones and we'll see you soon, like it's like this kind of like so my mind was going there. I remember one day listening to it and because now we're showing that in that sense they're communicating, right? And they
Oh,
and
yeah.
and so it's just now that being said, these young kids and everything that have disabilities, they do have, machines and things that they can communicate with. But if it was a two-way street going back and forth,
Oh
then
yeah.
we've got it made. Like then
And
there's
it,
no, you don't need to be hitting on anything. You can just be back and forth, you know? So
and they're
anyway,
doing that. They're doing that with
are
each
they?
other without their machines.
Right.
The
That's
machines
true.
are for them to talk to the common folk like us, but
Right. That's
but with
right.
each other they need nothing.
Yeah.
And we're there already. It's not that we have to wait. This is already here. It's been here as long as we've been here.
Mhm.
It's just that through a very, I believe, intentional um conditioning process, we have been led away from it. But no,
Mhm.
I dig it. I know it's true. I know that there are so many different ways to connect and communicate. My
Mhm.
father recently transitioned and I miss him desperately. Is my person and super close relationship. And we're talking constantly and he's still advising me, thank goodness. And like I know that there's no barrier here. I still want to call him. I still want to go hug him. I still want to bring him dinner. But I know and knew that there's not going to be separation. In fact, there's going to be even more presence because he's carried with me and I can tap in and jam with him anytime I
Mm.
want to. And it's true. And we can all do this, is my point. You don't have to wait till you're a certain level of, skill. Just believe that you can imagine it into being, get into the practice of getting out of your own way, and you can have this.
Mm. I love that. And you're right. And I'm sorry to hear about your father. The interesting thing is, we miss the human, right? Like that's
Yeah.
like you said, you
Yeah.
miss that the human part, but we're is, we all I always have this idea like this in my mind every time it pops up in my head that we're all in I seen this picture once and we're all in this lineup and then we're all lined up and then it shows at the very end of the lineup it shows people going up, right? Like their souls
Mhm.
leaving. We're all in a line to go. We're all on the line to leave the human. So we only have so much time to kind of enjoy it. So enjoy the people that are with you.
Mhm.
And then when you go, you're with them still. I mean, we are still with them,
Yeah.
but we're kind of constructed in this bodysuit that kind of holds us down here and
Yeah.
but I do think we're kind of like we weren't talking like this 200 years ago. I mean, as far as I know, I mean, there was maybe going further back. I feel like we go like this,
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
feel like there was ancient civilizations that understood this better than we do even now. And we need to get there again, and then we need to stick with it. Like we need to figure out a way to not fall down again. I don't know what happens. Um, I don't think we're meant to
Well,
know, but I don't know. But
yeah,
hopefully
you're
we'll get
doing
there.
your part. I'm doing my part.
Mhm.
This is what shifts things.
Yeah.
Each of us embodying the truth of who we are, all the aspects of it, the spiritual, the physical, the emotional, all of the energetic, and living with integrity and honesty. That's where it is. And you will, just like you're showing with your podcast, there people are hungry for this because it is true. It is real. It
Right.
is. Yes.
I think there's a knowingness. I think a lot of us know it deep
Yeah.
down. Even the seekers that are tuning in and say, ah, this is garbage, and they leave. I
Mhm.
think they're still seeking.
Mhm.
They're just need it's just taking them a bit. And it's okay.
Mhm.
Like there's
Yeah.
no problem with that. It's just like there's like this constant, we're all seeking this. So this has been amazing. If people want to get in contact with you, do you have a website or how do people actually work with you? I usually try to find that out when I'm talking to the guests. So
Yeah.
yeah.
My website is soulinsight.com. And you can find out about my courses or, private sessions or group readings. Those are all the things that I offer over there on the website.
So it's soulinsight.com.
Mhm.
It's an awesome website.
Yeah, you know what?
Yeah.
It's funny, Joe, because believe it or not, there's another intuitive channel named Stephanie Banks.
Oh, wow.
And so sometimes people have just like put in stephaniebanks.com or, what I'd like to do my name instead of the website. And they end up going to her. She channels very differently than me and has a totally different setup. So they get very confused and they
Oh my
say, I signed
goodness.
up for a session, but when are we? So go to soulinsight.com. Don't Google my name.
Yeah, that's good to know. Luckily for me, if people Google my name, I think there's like a baseball player that used to be play
Oh,
baseball. That's about it. There's not many other Joe Borowskis out there, but yeah, I could see that. I could see Stephanie and Banks. They're kind of common names, put them together,
yeah.
and there's somebody out there that's like you. So make sure you go to soulinsight.com. The last question I ask everybody, and I just like to know everybody's input on this is What is our main, what is the main reason we come here, like in this embodiment?
To love, to learn how to get closer to that divine love. That's what we're made of and who we are. And that's sort of, conditioned out of us through society and culture. But yeah, we're here to love and to offer that love freely without conditions and with great joy.
Thank you so much for being on the show today on Soul Inspired. I appreciate it so much. I really do.
Thank, thank you, Joe. It's a pleasure.
I always turn to the audience, say, please continue to like, share, and subscribe so the Soul Inspired can continue the work we're doing. You guys are all the reason we do it. So if this episode spoke to you or you think it would speak to someone, please share it with them. Until next time, I'll see you on the Soul Inspired. So